This is the Fresh Ice Podcast.
Punches him while he's down. That's a mistake. The captain tempted to twist his head off like a bottle cap.
George Laraque and Ty Domi are going at one another. Laraque's hit him a couple of good left hooks.
Tries to split the defense and walk in. Nice move. Another nice move. He scored. What a goal. It doesn't get any better than this.
Here are your hosts, Brian Goralnik and John Gallo.
Fresh Ice, it's Brian Goralnik alongside John Gallo. We are back in studio recording another episode. We thank you for tuning in. Of course, as always, you can find Fresh Ice on all social media platforms at Fresh Ice Pod, or email the show, freshicepod@gmail.com. We keep it pretty simple. John, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Brian. It's good to be back here with you again for another great episode, another great podcast. I'm excited for this episode because we're breaking down some future players.
Yeah, this is the future of the NHL that we're going to look at. We're going to get back into the draft that happened not too long ago, and got a lot to get to because there's some big names in that draft, some well-known names going to some teams that can really use some help. So a good show ahead of us. And as I was driving in today, getting ready for today's podcast that we're going to record, I started to think to myself, with the future of the NHL, these teams are looking at these kids, these players, and saying, you are who I want. And it got me thinking, well, what if I had an opportunity to pick anybody, for that matter, not just a youngster, but a former player, a current player, and spend a day with him. Now, I don't get him for a career. I get that. But what if I was able to play GM for just a day and pick this guy? I don't want you for my team. I want to hit the links with you. I want to grab a beer with you. I want to just hang out and have fun. So before we even get to the draft, let's pick our players in terms of who we want. If you had a day and you could pick anybody, and it's a loaded question, as I first asked you before we even jumped on air, John. It's a loaded question because when you first break it down, at least for me, I don't know about you, but for me, my mind went right to my favorite player. Like, oh, yeah, I would love to, meet Marc-Andre Fleury, hang out with him. And I was like, how would that go, though? The guy doesn't know a ton. He speaks English, but, French is his better language for sure. He has a heavy accent. I don't know if I'm cultured enough for the Flower, to be honest with you. I don't know. Maybe he's fun. Maybe he's not. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't blink at the opportunity. I would, take the chance in a heartbeat. But if I had anybody to pick from, then my mind starts going, well, think about hanging out with Super Mario for a day. Mario Lemieux, getting the stories that he can, give you. Even Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player of all time. Imagine the amount of stories that this guy has just in his bank, in his back pocket. The old man stories that you're sitting there, you don't even want a story. All of a sudden, a story comes out, and it's like, that was well worth the sit. I'm glad I heard that. It was interesting because it's just a life experience that we haven't even had a chance to, whether it be how long we've been alive or in this situation, we don't play in the NHL. So we haven't had those chances to really experience it. So I think story time would be fun as well. So then I think back and I'm like, well, hanging out with a guy like Brent Burns would be fun. The guy's got a big beard, lots of pets. I'm sure loves beer. Not no D. He's got a big beard, but I'm sure he loves beer. But I don't know. It's a loaded question. Do you know?
Well, first off, I think if you went with Brent Burns, that's a great choice. Just if you're an animal lover alone, because he has dogs. Like a legit petting zoo in his house of all animals that he's rescued, just different kinds, more than dogs and cats.
Right.
It's just one of the coolest things ever.
He's such a bizarre person. I'd love to know if he walks around without his front teeth veneers in.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
I guarantee you.
I can't see him wearing them because I've never seen him wear.
It's true. When he suits it up, he's not wearing them either.
But yeah, I know what my choice is, and I didn't even consider retired guys and like legends of the game.
Bobby Orr for a Bruins fan.
I know, and like you said, you immediately go to Flower, and my immediate was Patrice Bergeron.
Sure.
And I don't know, because he's kind of older now. He's in his upper 30s. He's a family man. I don't think he'd really go out and do things that I would do, like go to the bar and probably spend way too long there. So my pick is Florida Panthers defenseman Keith Yandle.
Ooh.
Because I've heard so many stories from his mouth, just on wherever, like different podcasts and whatnot. He's one of the funniest human beings I've ever heard. He's got a story for everything, and just his experience, because he's been in the NHL for over 10 years now, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think that would be an awesome day, and something I'd never forget.
Oh, no doubt about it. Keith Yandle's a good pick, and that's definitely an underdog pick. If we asked 20 people, I don't think I think you'd be the only one saying Keith Yandle. And again, that's small sample size, entire NHL to pick from, including former players. Not even we could pick Jack Hughes. We could pick the number 1 overall pick in the draft, because I would be curious to know, what is it like being so young, and now you're going to step up and play with the biggest of the big boys. And I don't know if I could handle that. I certainly don't think I would be ready to take on that kind of role. But hockey is a different game now, too. It's a speed game. I think if I really had a pick, if I just genuinely, and I would need a translator, because it would have to be translated. He wouldn't know enough English for it not to work. This might shock you, and I think this wouldn't be original to the list of 20 people picking. But based on what I saw after he won a Stanley Cup, I'd love to spend a day with Alex Ovechkin. I would love to spend a day with Ovi, man. Grade 8. I mean, this guy swam in a fountain in downtown D.C. I'd do the same damn thing if I won a cup. That is ridiculously childish, and I love it, every bit of it. So I keep thinking of all these guys, and listen, Ovi would have some stories, and I'd love to know about, his life over in Russia, before he even became a big star. Was it always easier for him because he had that talent from hockey? Things like that. So there's a lot I think I could soak in from Ovi, and I'm sure we would have a lot of fun drinking some beer. So
yeah, that's a great pick. I mean, just everything he did after the Stanley Cup is just, it was, I don't want to,
a part of it.
I don't, because it's not like a positive thing, I guess. I mean, it is, but it isn't, but it was revolutionary.
It was.
Look what happened this year with the Blues. They took it to not really the next level.
No, they came back down to earth, I think.
Yeah, they followed their footsteps a little, at least the parade anyway, with Brett Hull, the drunkest man in America, which is, if you haven't seen that video of him singing Gloria at the parade, you need to look it up, because it's awesome.
It is great. Yeah, we might even have to post that on and tweet that out, just to get it out there so people can have a chance to see it again. Again, we are on Twitter at Fresh Ice Pod, also on Facebook, Fresh Ice. And if you don't have any of those social media platforms, again, email us. You can easily be a part of the show, get your question through, and we can answer anything you're curious about. Just shoot us an email, freshicepod@gmail.com. All right, John, so a lot to get into, especially with this draft. Let's dive headfirst right into it. The number 1 overall pick, and I don't think there was really a debate between number 1 and number 2. The debate was between who is going to be number 1, and the Devils rolled with Jack Hughes, the center, the youngster, the American-born player. I think it's a good pick. The Hughes family, you're going to be hearing a lot about the Hughes family. They are the new family of hockey. There's a lot of, the Tkachuks are certainly a family of hockey.
Right.
But I think the Hughes, especially because, they're relevant. They're young. They're new. They're all-American. And it is what it is. So I think they're going to be a big brand. And it does hinge on Jack Hughes' success. Certainly hinges on Quinn Hughes' success. He was drafted last year 7th overall to the Vancouver Canucks. So it certainly depends on how they do. If they become kind of a flameout and not really anything in the NHL, I don't think that's the case. But if they don't do anything in the NHL, I think the Tkachuks are certainly having enough success where you could look at them as the family of hockey. You can't forget the Stalls. A lot of stalls in hockey, too. So not the bathroom stalls for the the casual fan. There's a Jordan Staal, Mark Staal, and Eric Staal. I wanted to say there was one more Staal brother, maybe just didn't play hockey. I know those are the 3 hockey guys. I feel like there is a 4th Staal out there, obviously not including Papa Staal, but John's checking that real quick. So the New Jersey Devils, they go with Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes lit up, absolutely lit up the 2019 World Junior Championships. It was the under-18s that he played in. We had to make that clear before the show. Had 20 points. 9 goals, 11 assists, helped the U.S. finish third. It was really kind of a performance where he put them on his back and did what he had to do because, listen, this guy's 5'10", 171 pounds, but he can still perform, deliver, and put up points like that. That just shows you the way the NHL is going, and I think the Devils made a smart move in picking the talented player and not necessarily the physique that the NHL requires or used to require.
I just thought it was interesting going into this draft because every month leading up to the draft was Jack Hughes is number 1. We don't know who. We're most likely it's Capo Kakko, number 2. But then when the World Juniors happened and the World Under-18 World Championships happened, the script kind of got reversed. People thought maybe New Jersey would blow people's mind and take Capo number 1.
Not a bad decision.
They couldn't have made it was a great problem to have because you had 2 great options on your plate, and you don't know what they both could fizzle out and be nothing, but they both could be elite superstars like Crosby and Ovechkin. So either way, you made the right choice.
That's what a lot of people are comparing these two guys as. That dynamic, high-profile, talented, same draft class type of deal, and a lot of people are looking at it as a Ovechkin Crosby problem to have. And again, they both won. I think the Capitals won in that, and I think the Penguins won in that. And they got the guys. You almost start to wonder, would Crosby have had such a good career if he was on the Capitals, and vice versa? Are the Penguins built for Ovechkin? I don't know.
That's a really interesting point because, you think about Crosby coming in at the tail end of Mario Lemieux's career.
Yes, and remember, Mario brought him in.
Right.
Sidney Crosby in the beginning years of his career, NHL career, lived with Mario Lemieux.
Right.
That's an incredible mentor to have.
And he strikes me as someone that would listen to a mentor and learn from the mentor. Yes. Ovechkin, on the other hand, I think he's more strong-headed and going to do his own thing, but he knows what he has to do. And if he was on the Penguins, I don't think he would have meshed with that team very well, especially with Mario Lemieux there. I don't know if he would have been accepting of going under his wing. Not saying that he's a bad person or a bad hockey player or anything. Just his personality is not someone that's gonna listen to. I don't want to say listen, but he's not gonna go out of his way to better himself from other people. Yes. He's going to do it his way, and he's going to do it right.
I think he had the confidence that he knew what he needed to do to be that kind of player. He knew what he was capable of and what style of hockey, what brand he was. He already knew his brand. Whereas Sidney Crosby, he didn't really know his brand because he was being branded as Wayne Gretzky's understudy.
Yes.
The next one. I mean, that was what his name was. He was the next one.
Yep.
Now, we all know he is not the next one, and there may never, ever, ever be a next one. Gretzky may always be in a class of his own because we're talking about, even look at the point totals now. I understand these guys are talented nowadays, but last year, what Nikita Kucherov did, 100 and whatever, 20-something, 30-something points, that was astounding. Okay,
right.
Mario Lemieux has done that like 3-4 times. I'm talking 150, 160.
Yeah.
Jágr's done that. For those who don't know, Gretzky has eclipsed 200 points. We're wowed, stunned about a guy who eclipsed 100 by 20 or 30. This guy hit 200 plus. We're not even trajecting towards that. We are so off that path. I don't think anybody's going to touch Mario Lemieux. But with that being said, there's a lot of talent out there, and you could still have an impact like Mario Lemieux. You could still have a great career, and Crosby has made a name for himself, and I think that was where Mario can step in and help him, because Mario, being a former superstar himself, at the time he was still a superstar, not necessarily on the ice, but what he was doing with the Penguins, and he was still a really relevant face of that franchise. He has since handed it off to the Crosbys, the Malkins, the future guys. But I think you're right with that mentorship for Crosby. It helped him flourish into what he is. And Ovechkin, to have the kind of freedom that he's always had, because think about it. With Crosby, there was Malkin, and that has been since day one. With Ovechkin, there has been no one.
Like Nicholas Backstrom maybe is the one guy.
TJ Oshie.
But TJ Oshie was brought in late.
Right, but and I mean, again, even Nicholas Backstrom, they're not the guy.
Right.
The guy is Ovi, and we all know that. At any given point, Malkin or Crosby can be the guy. In fact, Crosby hasn't led the Penguins in points every single year of his career. Malkin's done the honors a few times. So there was never that competition for Ovechkin, and that might have allowed him to flourish a little bit more too. So it would be really interesting if we could simulate their careers. I'm sure there's a program out there that can do it. Problem is, nothing's like in life. Nothing's the real thing.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I'm sure if you popped it in a simulator, probably would look pretty similar. It probably wouldn't be that much different. But when you factor in what we had talked about, there's a lot of external circumstances that went into those guys. So now we look at Jack Hughes and see, are the Devils the right fit? You know, they got a star, Taylor Hall. You know, they're a young team. They're an up-and-coming team. Maybe that's the case. Maybe not the case. You know, you'd like to see it. There's a lot of good names from an American-born player drafted number 1 overall. Most notably, a couple years ago, Austin Matthews. I think he's turned into quite the player. And even before that, Patty Kane in 2007. So the last 2 examples of an American-born player being drafted number 1 overall have panned out nicely. So I think the Devils are hoping for that. With that being said, the Rangers, I don't think they're worried because they got a good player in their own, in Kaapo Kakko. And Kaapo has shown us the ability that he's a big-time player. Now, this is a guy who, in the 2019 World Junior Championship, the non-under-18, just the regular World Juniors, he beat us. He delivered a game-winning goal against the United States in a late game situation, in a championship game, in a game that I think the Americans were favored. You're talking, that was our tournament to win, I feel like. You know, Ryan Poehling was having an amazing tournament. You know, we had the players there in the pieces in place to win that, and I think Kakko kind of took everybody by storm. And again, like you said, not only solidified his spot as number 2, but really made that competition for number 1 something to talk about.
Yeah, he raised the question of, is Jack Hughes the guy that should go number 1, or should Kaapo do it? Because he's had the experience now on a big stage where, I'm not saying Jack Hughes hasn't, because he did play on the U.S. development team and played in their the under-18 World Championships. And Kaapo Kakko was playing World Juniors, which is like the next step below the NHL as an international tournament. So he has that experience in these big games and has proved that he's going to play. And he's going to one of the biggest places to play in the NHL in Madison Square Garden. And he's going to fit right in. And I think he's going to embrace that New York culture very well.
That's interesting. A diverse culture. I never really thought about that. I think it's a better fit for a foreigner to be in New York as opposed to New Jersey and playing in the Prudential Center over there. You know, there's definitely more foreigners in New York and in downtown in the city. And again, we've talked about the fact that he could certainly light up a big stage. And I think the big thing for him too, he doesn't have to come in and be the man. Sometimes coming into a big market team, you get all the hype, and now you have all these expectations, and it may be hard to live up to it. And again, for Jack Hughes, he's got those expectations. He kind of knew that was coming. And there's not really another, still there's Taylor Hall there, but Jack Hughes is the guy. But let's not forget, though, there's a lot of other young draft picks in New Jersey. They just recently had Nico Hischier, who they just drafted really high. And so they picked up Hischier to go along with this youngster, Jack Hughes, whereas Kaapo is in a situation where there's not a ton of youth on the Rangers. There's guys who are young, but not necessarily like first or second year guys. You know, their core is younger, but they've been there. They just got rid of Jimmy Vesey, their most recent big name draft pick. So, those guys are kind of going away. Buchnevich is I think still in uniform, still with the Rangers, but maybe this can kind of spark him. Sometimes foreigners work well with each other. If there's not enough non-American in a locker room, them. They might feel uncomfortable. This kind of diversifies their locker room. But let's keep in mind they got Artemi Panarin. So none of these guys, none of them have to be the deliverer. Panarin's the savior. He's the almighty king who's coming in and taking control of the reins and being that man, that go-to guy. He's the stud. So he could just kind of ride under Panarin's wings. And to be honest, I don't think that their play style is all that different. I mean, they're both talented, speedy wingers. They got a knack for scoring. I think that there's something to be learned, too, not only to absorb, but just the style of play. I think Capo can actually grow his game watching Panarin.
Absolutely, and it's going to be interesting to see if they actually put them on a same line together on that first line because, Capo likes to play his off wing, so he likes to play on the right side, which is where Panarin plays. You can't have him playing the same position at the same time, but, Capo is a center. He has played center in his career, but he's more comfortable on the right wing. So it'll be interesting to see whether the Rangers try to get him to switch to staying center and so he can have him on the first line with Panarin, or if they have that 1-2 punch of two great right wings back-to-back.
Yeah, and you think about that. If somebody's going to move, it's not going to be Panarin. So maybe explore putting him at left wing. I mean, listen, these guys nowadays can play anything. And Brett Hull was the founder of being the offhand on the offside. So if you're a righty, you're playing left wing. Not so you can receive everything on the backhand. So that way you can come in already loaded up, ready for that one-time stance and let a rocket fly. I mean, that was his signature move. So it's not impossible to do, and style of hockey can work off of that. But I don't know if he necessarily has the shot. That's more of like an Ovechkin move. You know what I mean? I'd put Ovechkin on the left wing so that way, him being a righty, he could tee it off and let it go. And you see that on the point. He plays left wing on the point, or lefty. There's not really a defenseman on anybody's power play nowadays. It's like 4 forwards and that one most talented offensive defenseman who's playing the 5th spot. So thank Sergei Gonchar for that. He kind of led the charge for those talented offensive defensemen. Anyways, I digress. Point being is it can work, and the fact that he can play some center also opens up the ability to push him down the line too if it's not working out. So he can potentially be the line 2 center, work it from there, or even play his favorite wing, the right wing, on the second line if it's not working out with Panarin. But even just the exposure in practice will certainly help him. We look at the Chicago Blackhawks, who picked up the 3rd overall pick, and they went with a center, Kirby Dach, out of Saskatoon. I think this is an all-telling sign that Jonathan Toews is very old.
Yeah, I mean, he is getting up there in age, and you do need to start thinking about replacing him. But it's great to bring in a guy now that's going to learn from him, one of the greatest centers that's laced him up. And it's going to be a great experience for him to grow and try to have a better chance of filling those shoes, which I'm sure is never going to be an easy task. But he has Toews there to learn from him, and Patrick Kane is kind of getting up there in age too. And you need to find talent that's going to fill these 2 spots. But the positive is, with those guys going up in age and getting ready to call it a career, you're going to have more cap flexibility in Chicago.
That's
something
true.
They've had a problem with the last few years. And, this guy's coming in at a good time where if he proves himself, he can get one of those kind of contracts. I don't know if they're going to, go as extreme as they have based on what has happened, but he's setting himself up nicely to be the franchise player.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He's 6'4", 198 pounds. I mean, that's a huge frame, especially for a center. And the thing is, his best ability is not his scoring ability. It's his vision on the ice. It's his ability to move the puck. A lot of kind of mirroring what Jonathan Toews can do. Toews was never, don't get me wrong, Toews was good for 20 goals plus a season, but he was the guy who was going to set up Patty Kane if push came to shove. If they needed a goal, Toews could deliver, Toews would deliver, but ultimately Toews would be looking to set Patty Kane up for him to finish it off first, because that's their number 1 finisher on the team. So I could very much see a situation where Doc gets some time playing, centering next to Patrick Kane and potentially working that. So again, it's a lot about exposure, who you play with and who you play around. But I do like the similarities to Jonathan Toews. I like the situation for this guy. And when you look at it, he played 62 games with Saskatoon, put up 73 points. That's over a point per game. That's really good. Obviously, the guy knows how to do it on both ends, whether it's delivering a pass or shooting the puck. But having a pass first center, that's always a positive thing to have in the NHL. Sometimes becoming a rarity nowadays too, because everybody wants to score the goal. I was more of that assist, pass first guy, the assist machine, and I like to see those guys, get drafted high, get some recognition here. How you doing? We keep on sliding down. The Colorado Avalanche picked up Bowen Byram. Now keep in mind, Colorado has some young defensemen. Now, they just shipped off Tyson Barrie over to the Maple Leafs, right? So they got rid of Tyson Barrie, opening up a potential spot. Cale Makar is probably going to fill that spot. Remember, that was their first-round draft pick from last year. Yes. Delivered in the postseason, too. Cale Makar looked really good in the playoffs in the limited sample size that we saw from him. And so they still got another couple names on the blue line, but they want to bring in another young guy. I think this is the right move for the Avalanche because they do have a lot of talent up front with Landeskog, with Rantanen, with McKinnon. They have brought in Kadri, so they have the talent up front. I think their issue is the blue line, fortifying that or refortifying it in the sense of when they got rid of Barrie. But their other issue is Philip Grubauer the answer in goal? I don't know. I want to say he is, but I don't know. But this is a nice move for them to kind of fill a piece that they shipped off for more talent up front. The Kings went with Alex Turcotte. Again, another youngster. Small frame. Look at these guys. 5'11", 186, a center. U.S. guy, though. We like to see those U.S. guys getting drafted early. This is a guy who has had injury issues, missed some time, lost, 22 games, I believe, with a lower body injury. I hate those LBIs. Those are just so uninformative. What is it? Is it a leg? Is it a hip? Is it a foot?
Is it a toe?
Is it a toe? You never know. So the point is, this guy is a playmaker, and playmakers, goal scorers, visioneers, whatever you want to call them, the guys who have that prowess in the offensive zone. Right now, the Kings are desperate for that.
Oh, definitely, and he's probably going to be their franchise player they build around for the next few years because they are a team with aging superstars with Anze Kopitar and Jeff Carter both. I
figured I should have said it. I didn't know if you were thinking Kopitar because there was also Ilya Kovalchuk too.
Right, and He's just signed a 2-year deal, so this could be his last year.
I think this could be his last. I think it was a 2-year deal, correct. So coming back to the NHL, and he didn't do much last year.
No, but he's much older than he was when he left in the first time he went back to the KHL in Russia.
I think Kovalchuk is 36, I think?
Yeah, so as a 36-year-old who, he spent a lot of his prime years in Russia because he wanted to go back. And I know he went back for family reasons. His father was sick, and he wanted to spend his father's last few years with him, which is great. And I completely get that. Mm-hmm. But, from age 30 to 34, he's not there, which for hockey anyways, that's usually coming out of your prime and like the tail end of your prime. Now he's coming in as a 35-year-old where most guys are starting to think about retiring, and he's trying to do it again in a much faster game than when he left.
Yeah, it's a difficult transition, and I didn't think it was going to be a good move, especially to the Kings, who were relying so much on him doing a lot. They needed a 20-goal performance from him last year, 20-goal season. They needed 50-plus points. If he were to go to a team like the Bruins, there would have been so much less pressure for him to just rely naturally on his scoring ability, kind of like Jágr did in the latter years of his career.
Right.
He wasn't the best player on the team, but you know what? He had some good years in Florida and some good years in Calgary and some good years in Philadelphia and some good years in New Jersey and some really good years in New York with the Rangers because he didn't need to be the guy. He wasn't expected to be the guy. Kovalchuk came over and it was like, nice, now we got the 1A guy next to Kopitar. 1A guy? This guy's 35. 1A is well out the window when he signed a 12-year contract with the New Jersey Devils that got voided.
Well, I think a lot of teams were hung up on he was just coming off that 2018 Winter Olympic run where he played for Russia. But we have to remember there was no NHL players playing in that Olympics. So he's playing against a bunch of, minor league and different countries with their leagues. So a lot of it was guys playing in the KHL like himself. But he carved everyone up. And that kind of gave everyone the idea that this guy still got it. But it was just a different style of play than what's the NHL is being played at right now.
Yeah, and to give you an idea of the lack of talent that was playing in that 2018 Olympics, and it was OAR too. Remember, they weren't
right. That's right.
They were the Olympic athletes from Russia, but they had guys like Datsuk on the team. They had Kovalchuk on the team. They had pretty much their full lineup of players to pick from, and they beat Germany for the championship.
Even Germany to get there was a shocker.
That's my point. That's Germany. You're saying Germany brought home the silver out of Canada, Finland, Sweden, America?
US, yeah.
Germany is there? Yeah, that just shows you the lack of talent and the lack of names that Germany is there. Okay.
Because I know for U.S. anyway, we sent all the college guys out there because we couldn't even send our minor leaguers. Yes. The AHL wouldn't allow them to go under their CBA.
Well, still, yeah, and a lot of those AHL guys are on two-way contracts. So
right.
Under the NHL, it still follows under that. So, speaking of Germany, though, man, Germany, silver. Yeesh, I forgot about that. Hey, the Red Wings drafted a German defenseman, Moritz Seider. And this is a good move for the Red Wings as they pick him 6 overall because the Red Wings are desperately looking for their next Nicholas Lidstrom. They do not have a good blue line. Mike Green is up there. Trevor Daley is an injury threat up there, getting up there in age. Jonathan Eriksson, I didn't even know the guy still laces them up. I mean, they need some help along that blue line because, listen, they got some young talent up front. I mean, look at that first line from last year. Dylan Larkin, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Anthony Mantha. Those 3 are becoming studs in the NHL. So I very much am for what the Detroit Red Wings are doing with their top 6 guys. They still have a decent roster to fill out the offense, but they are desperately looking for some help along the blue line. And it's not making Jimmy Howard look good either. I know he had a better year last year. 2 years ago, he was atrocious, lost his job to Peter Mrazek. Jimmy Howard might still have some left in the tank. I don't think the Red Wings are going to go make any cup runs, but getting a guy like Moritz, who has a big shot, he can now play the point. He's talented in that sense. But anytime you get a defenseman, you also know, well, he could play defense too. So if you start to secure up that point with the talent that's up front, and if Jimmy Howard has a few good years left in him, Detroit could be sniffing some playoffs in the next few years. They're making the right moves, and I think that's a good step in the right direction.
I just think this one was a big surprise to a lot of teams and a lot of people because no one expected a German defender to be going in the top 10 of the NHL draft.
But they finished silver medal in the 2018 Olympics.
He wasn't on the team.
I know. I'm just hating on Germany. I
just remember seeing when the draft was happening and I saw his name and I didn't remember seeing him in the top 10 projected. That Detroit really jumped up to get him, but they really liked his style. And if you really like someone's style and you're welcoming him like this, it may give them, that mental edge where they say, you know what, this team really wants me. They really know I can do it. I know I can do it. Let's go do it.
Yeah, he played for Mannheim, which is Germany's top pro league, and he had only 6 points in 29 games as 2 goals and 4 assists. The thing is, he was named league's Rookie of the Year. Not defensive Rookie of the Year, but just Rookie of the Year. And on top of that, he helped Mannheim win that championship. He had a +6 rating in 14 playoffs games that they played. So, again, to my point, he's got a big shot. He could play power play, but most importantly, he holds down his own zone. And that plus-minus rating is a very big indicator of how well you play on your own side of the blue line. And in this case, Seider picks the right side all the time. That was pretty bad. Buffalo Sabres did not go on the blue line. They went with Dylan Cousins, another center. Listen, this is the right move for them, too, because they went defense last year. You know, they have Rasmus Dahlin. They got Rasmussen, too. I mean, they have a few names along that blue line now that they can Rasmus Ristolainen, that's who I'm talking about, Rasmus Ristolainen. So that blue line's secure. Again, for Buffalo, it's what's in net and the offense. They got to help Jeff Skinner out. They got to help their guys up front out. And Dylan Cousins might be that. He might be that number 2 line center and actually start delivering some points because they got Eichel and they have Skinner. So that top line is set. Whoever's going to play on the wing with them. But now you're looking at a solid second-line center in Dylan Cousins. And I don't think he's going to start there, but he's got the speed, he's got the size, and he's got the shot to do it. The dude's 6'3", 183. He could play a grinder line. He could certainly play on a top 6 line as well because of the fact that top 6 role because he has the talent, the hands, and the vision to make that happen as well.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting to see because Buffalo was out of the gate last year was awesome. Right away, they were great. They were in first place for a good majority of the beginning of the season. And then as we got about halfway, they started to kind of, level out. And then they started going on the decline and ended up missing the playoffs. And maybe this is a guy that can help them get over that hump and keep their hot streak going throughout most of the season.
Well, a lot of it is depth. You need the depth to be able to play into the NHL. It's nice to have the guys up front. Sam Reinhart, that's who was playing the wing with them. But I mean, look, you got Connor Shear. You got some of these other guys, Marcus Johansson. They got some. They picked up Jimmy Vesey. They still have Kyle Okposo. I mean, there's some names deeper into this lineup when you start looking at it that they're set, and especially with the defense they have on the blue line. Again, if Carter Hutton can do what he can do, they could certainly make a splash, or at least take a sniff at the playoffs, and that's the most important thing. The Edmonton Oilers, they went on the defensive side, grabbing Philip Broberg with the 8th overall. Listen, they need some help on that blue line because they let up a lot of goals. We all know Connor McDavid can deliver, but they haven't made the playoffs because of the fact that they're getting outscored. That's clear. Darnell Nurse is not the answer for them along the blue line, and they've tried a few and striked out on a few as well. So they can't afford to strike out again. This is coming down to where they need to start making the playoffs or they can kiss Connor McDavid goodbye.
I'm surprised he hasn't asked for a trade or anything yet because they have been really just downright atrocious the last few years. And it's a shame because he's the best player in hockey right now. And we don't get to see him in the playoffs. He's probably maybe the second closest behind Crosby to the next Gretzky.
Oh,
but
yeah.
As he's not going to be in the playoffs every year, he's never even going to come close to that because who cares about the regular season? I mean, I get it. Your stats are important throughout the regular season and everything for your career. But it's all about Stanley Cups, and it's about what you do in the clutch moments, which is the playoffs.
It is, and we don't get to see that kind of talent. You're right. It's a shame. It really is a shame. You want to talk about the playoffs and the way it's structured and how we lose some of these good teams early? Well, let's talk about how Connor McDavid hasn't played a playoff game, and we want to see this guy play the most intense hockey there is, and we're not getting to see him play past the regular season. It's not fair, and realistically, it's a bad thing for the NHL, especially in a hockey market like Edmonton. That doesn't appeal to you and me. We're on the Northeast, but out there's a lot of diehard hockey fans, and you know what? If he could blow up, he could start kind of rallying the momentum that Seattle's building up in that corner as well. You can really start to get something happening out west. I think that California is coming in big. I mean, realistically, you look at some of these Western teams, they're doing great things for hockey in terms. I mean, look at the Dallas Stars now. I mean, Dallas is lighting up the big star state. I mean, the San Jose Sharks, they're kind of all of a sudden introducing some Spanish into the game. So you work all of these different markets. You still have to worry about Canada. I understand Canada will always love their hockey, but you still got to work them because they have other hockey avenues that they could explore. They have other areas where they can absorb their hockey. They don't have to watch the Edmonton Oilers. So we still want them to be very much invested into the NHL, and hopefully Broberg turns out better than Oscar Klefbom. That's who I was thinking of. So with that, I mean, listen, Darnell Nurse wasn't bad last year, but again, Klefbom didn't turn out what they're looking for, and he's the number one defenseman still at the moment. So hopefully Broberg does what the Oilers are looking for them, because we all want to see Connor McDavid into the playoffs. That is a fact. Looking at the Ducks, they got some help up front. They went with Trevor Zegras, another youngster. Again, a guy who has some patience, a guy who has some good vision, and maybe a guy who potentially can fill the void of lost Corey Perry. Obviously, the Ducks parting ways with Corey Perry and figuring that out. Listen, this is a big guy, again, six foot tall. He's got the size there. He's got to put on some weight. Only 173, but he's young, so he's got some time there. And then the 10th overall pick, the Vancouver Canucks, Vasily Podkolzin.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this guy a little bit before the show, but not because of his hockey, because of his name. We could not figure out how to pronounce his name, but I think we got it, or at least you got it.
Listen,
I'm not even going to try.
I don't care if it's not Podkolzin. We are Fresh Ice Pod. He is Fresh Ice Podkolzin.
Yes, I like that. I like that a lot.
That's right. So, listen, this is a right winger out of Russia. We all know what Russians can do. They can certainly score the puck, i.e. Alex Ovechkin. This guy can also move the puck. Was in the under-19 team for Russia. Had 8 points in 6 games. So the guy can score. The Canucks can use that. I don't really know if the offense was their most pressing need, but I think Vasily was probably the best name on the board at that point in terms of picking a top 10 guy.
I think it's just a third big name next to Brock Besser and Elias Pettersson.
That's true too.
And I think they're just trying to build from the ground up basically, because they were pretty much down in the basement once the Sedin brothers left, and they're on the right track. They got the high-powered offense. Now they just got to work on their defense.
You got the European brothers, the Europe trio.
That's right.
Bunch of foreigners over there in Vancouver. Good for them, though. We'll see what they can do. And you're right. I mean, there's a lot of excitement with some of these teams up front. Especially, I mean, look at that Metropolitan Division, though. Boy, oh boy, how can that change? You're talking about the Devils and the Rangers with major off seasons. The Islanders, had a great year last year. The Penguins, the Capitals. That Metropolitan Division, probably one of, if not the hardest divisions in hockey. It's not hard because there's only 4 divisions in hockey. So you have a 25% chance that they're going to be the best division in hockey. It is what it is. All right, so because we're running short on time here, as we always do, John. I blame it on you. You're very long-winded.
I know. It's something I'm working on.
Myself as well. All right, let's get to the big names. Florida Panthers picked the first goalie to go off the board, Spencer Knight. He is a North American, and he is a big name. Al Jensen of NHL Central Scouting said that he is like a young Carey Price. I like the sounds of that, especially when we're talking about if the NHL players are going to be able to return to playing for the U.S. in the Olympics. We certainly want a guy like this on the rise.
And I think this guy is someone we're all going to be rooting for on Fresh Ice Podcast, because he's a Connecticut-born kid. He's born down on the coast of Stamford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And we're recording in Hartford, Connecticut, so we're a couple hours away. But we're always going to root for our Connecticut guys like we always have, and we're just really happy for Spencer Knight to be going to Florida.
So that's right. Move over, Jonathan Quick. We got a new Connecticut guy holding down the reins in the blue crease. Spencer Knight, be on the lookout for him. Also, by the way, keeping it local, he's going to be playing for Boston College next year. Have a good feeling the guy's going to start as a freshman.
Yeah, we'll be seeing a lot of them. I mean, I go to every UConn hockey game whenever they're home. I might take the ride up to Massachusetts this year to go see those games. And I'm excited to go see him play.
Yeah, and in fact, we might have to get Bob Joyce in and
absolutely
talk to him, because obviously the play-by-play for UConn hockey, he certainly is going to have a great view at some Spencer Knight to see what he's all about. So as we fly through this, let's jump to 21 for something near and dear to my heart, the Pittsburgh Penguins. How about Sam Poulin? Moved up 5 spots to finally get to where he was going to end up. And the reason I want to bring him up, 1, because I'm a Penguins fan, obviously. But 2, because he's a center, and he's a right wing, but he can also handle faceoffs very nicely. But he's the son of former center, somebody who played right down the street from us. Patrick Poulin was a center for the Hartford Whalers. So how about the former Whalers' son, Sam Poulin, going to my favorite team, but the Pittsburgh Penguins, who just lost Phil Kessel. Hello, Poulin. Right. I just saw your top 6 forward spot open up. We'll see if he can make it there. I think there's too much talent on the Penguins. If anything, if he cracks the lineup, I don't think he's going to be in the top 6. I could tell you that. John, you wanted to jump to Bruins pick here.
Yep, I wanted to go over the Bruins pick as my last little choice here.
Sure.
Number 30, they took John Beecher, a center out of Michigan. He's going to be playing in college at Michigan this year. He was on the U.S. Under-18 National Team Development Program, and he was overlooked. And this was a surprise pick to many, including myself, who I didn't expect him to be picked this early. And then when he went over and played in the Under-18 World Juniors, he was awesome. He was so good, and I felt like I was watching a different highlight from him every night. He's a center that's going to come in, could be potential top 6 talent down the road. I don't think he's going to start off right away. He's got to play 2 years at Michigan at least. I think maybe after 2 years we may see him leave Michigan and come to Boston. I'm not sure. He may end up staying extra year, but I'm really excited to see this kid playing in the Bruins in the near future.
Yeah, and you talk about your favorite player in Patrice Bergeron getting up there in age.
Yes, he is. They're all starting to. The Bruins window is starting to close.
Well, Pasta's still plenty young.
Right, but, I mean, you can't just build a team around one guy.
Pasta for life, baby. That's it. That's all we need. Pasta and Tuke.
Hey, I'm Italian. Pasta is all I need in my life.
Well, that's very true. Hey, a couple other quick names real quick. Going 27th overall to the Lightning, Nolan Foote, son of the big defenseman out of the Colorado Avalanche, Adam Foote. So we'll see what Nolan can do. Nolan's not a big defenseman like his father. He's just a left winger. But you know what? I liked Adam Foote. Played a lot of Adam Foote when I was playing some NHL back in the day. Those are good old days. And as a Bruins fan, you could respect that because Adam Foote was on the team that helped Ray Bourque get his title. So, yeah, how about that? And how about going 28th overall to the Carolina Hurricanes, Ryan Suzuki, the center out of Canada. His brother, Nick Suzuki, so another brother combination that they got in the NHL there, also plays for the Montreal Canadiens. So the Suzuki brothers putting their hand in the hat for the best brothers of the NHL. They might need a couple more. By the way, good segue real quick back to the stalls.
Yes.
There is a 4th stall, and I am so sorry, Jared. I forgot about you because plays for Ryan's team, Ryan Suzuki on the Carolina Hurricanes. Jared Stahl, also a member of the Carolina Hurricanes. So,
I think he's the forgotten Stahl because he's the only Stahl brother not taken in the first round, which...
Yeah,
I mean,
he's also the youngest.
Hockey family.
He's the youngest of the 4 brothers. So you look at the youngest. I'm the youngest. We always get overlooked. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, you're right. And I also think he's probably the least talented out of the 4.
I didn't want to say it, but
well, let's be honest here.
No,
this is fresh ice. We got to give it to him fresh.
Yeah, I mean, there's just his 3 brothers are just awesome players.
That's the problem. Yeah.
They're just really good, and we're not saying he's bad. He's just not as talented, unfortunately.
Real quick, because I know we're so long on time, but real quick, who would you pick out of the Stahl brothers? Who's the best?
Probably.
I mean, it seems like Eric is the obvious, but you look at some of Jordan's accolades. I mean. Listen, he won a Rookie of the Year, or would have been a Rookie of the Year. He was second in voting in the Calder, only to Evgeny Malkin. But this guy has some records that nobody has touched. He's. I don't know.
I was going to say him because he's still getting it done.
Really? Jordan Stahl?
Yeah, he's still getting it done with the Hurricanes.
Well, I'm also not hating on Eric Stahl, though. Eric Stahl, they're all good players. Listen, Mark Stahl is a great defenseman as well, so you know what? The heck with it. I don't think we could pick. We'll see which Hughes player is the best. My money is on Jack. But, and by the way, the youngest of the Hughes brothers, Luke, I'm hearing that he might be the best skater of all 3 of them. So we'll see what Jack can do, and it'll pave the way for Luke, I'm sure. A lot of good brothers in hockey, as we're seeing. That might be the new thing. There's the duos in basketball, right? And then there's the families in hockey. Yeah, keep it in the blood. All right, John, we went over our time, as we always do. I'll take blame for this one. I guess I'll take the bullet this time around. For John Gallo, I'm Brian Goralnik. Again, you can find this show on any social media at Fresh Ice Pod. Be sure to be a part of our show. Tweet at us, comment on any of our posts, and certainly you could shoot us an email, freshicepod@gmail.com. For Mr. Gallo, I'm Mr. Goralnik. This has been Fresh Ice.